Hello, Mr. Bill Han.
Miss Francine.
You do a very important job here, apparently.
We try to, yes, we try to indeed. I am the co-director this year, and that means we have the overall vision of how to present the play and put it on stage and guide the actors and that kind of thing.
Okay. Now, what was your inspiration? Because I've heard that you're the playwright
Yes, I
also.
am, as a matter of fact. I've always had a fascination with history, always. And when we came from Pennsylvania, where we were in a really boring county, and came to New Bern and had a lot of history, I started getting into it. And for a while, I took a job in Triumph Palace, what's called a first-person interpreter. You go around, you act like it's whatever you're portraying. And it was during that time I learned about the Stanley Spate duel for the first time. And at that time, Simon Spalding, our music writer and musician, and his wife Sarah also worked at Palace. In fact, they were my bosses. And the last year that Sarah was there, she decided it was time she was going to try to put together a reenactment of a duel. She left before it could happen, but then I took what she had laid out and I brought it around. And since then, they've been doing the duel every year. And over time, I looked at that and I saw how they did it, and they simplified it every year. And I just knew it was a much more complex story. We needed a bigger way to tell it. And
Now,
so that's when I started researching it more heavily and thought, well, this needs to be a play. We can make a big play out of this. And that's how it started.
what are some of the complexities that you really wanted to relay during this particular production?
The complexities of script or of presentation, or
Both, all of it. We need answers for everything.
I'm presenting in a very stylistic manner, not a realistic manner. The dialogue is realistic. The events, the interactions of the characters are all true, very carefully researched. But we were presenting it in a way that takes a really talky play, because this whole duel was about a month's worth of sending circulars at each other. And a lot of it was, how do we present that and not bore people to death with all this dialogue? And so I chose a stylistic manner using a lot of theatrical devices. We use freezes a lot where the characters are frozen in position while other characters are moving around or acting. We use video to present the duel itself, the actual duel, because the duel involved these big black powder guns that I cannot shoot off in the theater, and these are old muzzle-loading guns that could misfire any time, and you don't want to have that final shot that happens go click. So we filmed it instead, and then put actors on the stage while it's being shown above, as you well know, and just other things like that to keep mixing up the variety and style and keep it interesting and moving along. So that's a lot of how we presented it that way, to keep it lively and interesting. And as far as what I'm aiming to present, it's a large theme of honor and of the political situation that brought about some of these ideas of honor, an old world style of honor. We've lost that sense of honor today. And while we should not have the kind of honor where you insulted me, so let's take guns and shoot at each other, still there's something to admire in that deep sense of what is honorable, of what really, in a day when no matter how bad a person is, they won't resign or anything, or they make excuses and keep going. We're missing that. And then also, the more I researched it, and I started finding a story about Sarah and her son, Sarah the slave and her son, and how that intricately wove in, that made me more excited and gave me a whole lot more to do on. And I actually consider that story to be just as important as the dual story of Sarah and her search for freedom and her desire for it. And so all of a sudden I had two kinds of honor. The honor of my pride. This is who I am, and you cannot do any, if you deface it, you will answer for it. And the honor of being able to control her own life, which so many millions and millions of Americans could not in that day.
Wow. What was something very important that you wanted people to realize about Sarah's story?
What it came down to me was, in reading writing this book by William Still, of the many people he interviewed, this one slave woman, she was fairly young, a stranger tells her, I'll help you to freedom if you wish. took the chance, which was a big chance, and he got her there. And they interviewed her, and they said, "Well, were you treated cruelly?" "No, I was not. They were very kind to me." "Well, did they love you?" "Yes, they actually loved me." "Did you love them?" "Yes, I did." And I said, "Well, then, why did you leave all that and follow a man you didn't even know and take all these chances?" And she said, "Because he told me I could be free." And that spoke out so strongly to me. That is all Sarah wants. She is a favored and beloved slave. And yes, she's chattel. Yes, we have a scene in the play where she says, "If they tell you we love you, Sarah," she says, "You love me like you love your favorite horse." It's not really free. And a more subtle scene where we break a vase, and she breaks in anger, and her mistress Mary comes up, comes up and picks it up and says, "Well, I really like that vase, but I guess in the end it really doesn't mean that much." And that's a reflection of where Sarah sees her life and her son's life, and it's really a reflection of all the lives then.
Wow. You brought up Mistress Mary, which is Mr. Spate's wife. What are some things that you wanted to really incorporate with her character?
And her character is tricky. There's a lot I know about John Stanley. There's a lot I know about Richard Dobbs Spake, because there's so much information on him. What we know about Mary, she was apparently very beautiful, and from a wealthy family in town. And when George Washington made his famous visit in town here, she was the one he chose to dance with. So she must have been something of a babe for that to happen. And I guess my interpretation, she is my piece, my reflection of a modern viewpoint. Here is her husband so obsessed with his honor, and she's watching him fall deeper and deeper into it until he eventually destroys himself. And she can only say so much. She can only have so much control. And it's her reaction trying frantically to get him to see the reason of, "Don't you see what you're doing to me? When you die, I'm alone." And a woman in that day, when the husband died, as often as not, became totally destitute, because women did not have careers. They might run a boarding house, they might do some sewing, or that kind of thing. They don't have careers, and if your husband's not very well said, you're in trouble, or if you're not very marriageable to a new guy. So it's just a flip side of the honor question. She has honor, but she doesn't take it as far as he does, and she's trying to bring him along on that.
Hmm. Now, you've mentioned John Stanley also. What are some particular things that you were looking at when you wrote the script for his character?
One thing that's important to me is I don't see him as a villain. Neither of these guys were villains. They were two men with bad tempers who got caught up on each other, and then Richard Dobbs Spade took it a step further. He just couldn't let anything rest. He had to keep digging and making things worse and tangling himself more. And John Stanley eggs madder and madder as he's seeing himself vilified, until they're both screaming at each other and flip out, and finally John Stanley makes that final challenge and makes the duel happen. But Richard Dobbs Spade is the one who's really at fault for it. John Stanley is accused of having basically said that Spade was a traitor to his party, and Stanley denied that. He said it was that he said, "I'm only telling people you keep voting with the other side. I'm not saying you're actually a traitor to your party," and we don't know, because his side said that side said that, and we've got witnesses from both. And my personal suspicion is, yeah, he did call him a traitor to his party, but he wasn't really a bad guy. He was an amazing attorney, a popular congressman, known for a very sarcastic wit, a really sarcastic wit. If you were a friend of his, he was amazing. If you were his enemy, you were in serious trouble. And that's the kind of strength in a person. That's what I'm trying to present. The idea that these two guys are coming together, and it's their personalities, it's their sense of honor. We are opening on the 21st. That's Thursday. I'm speaking Mets tomorrow, and through the 24th, and that is through Sunday, 7 o'clock on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, then 2 o'clock on Sunday. And then we come back again next Saturday, April 30th, doing two shows at 2 o'clock and at 7. And then on May 1st is our final show.
And what are
And
the
that's
ticket
2 o'clock.
prices?
Ticket prices are $18, I'm thinking. Don't hold me that, it could be 20, but I'm thinking it's $18, and you can pick them up at the Historical Society at 501 Broad Street, or you can go onto our website at www.nchistorytheater.org, and we do spell theater Theater, not RE.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bilhan. I truly do appreciate the interview. Have a lovely
Thank
the rest
you,
of your day.
and hurry into your costume.
Okay.